Thanks so much for coming, and thanks so much for enduring on these seats for an hour and now another hour, because I was like, it's a really weird little chandelier thing going on here, so it's interesting to be in a place like that. I'm Chris Heilmann, I'm from Mozilla, and my job is to be the HTML5 evangelist. When I started the job about 2 years ago, I said that I want to make Mozilla the Switzerland of HTML5, where all the other companies are bashing their heads in and trying to be the best in it. We can be the ones that actually don't have to compete much because we are non-for-profit. So we don't have stakeholders that tell us to be the number one HTML5 and drive forward HTML6 or something like that. So this talk is about broken promises of HTML5, and it's quite interesting to just see what James has been doing, because we mesh incredibly well, and we didn't actually talk to each other about this, but it seems to me that everybody who's been very close to HTML5 has the same problems right now, or has the same confusion right now. I'm going a lot out of my comfort zone at the moment. So I've been a web developer for 16 years, and I'm not speaking much at web development conference at the moment, but I'm going to like business analysts. I'm going to enterprise events and these kind of things and talk there about HTML5. And I get a lot of feedback that hurts me, and that's good, because I want us to move forward. We get far too excited about using our technology just for ourselves. So this is what this talk is slightly about. But let's start with something different. I'm a big movie fan. I'm the kind of guy that watches a movie several times with the director's audio track and has IMDb open and actually writes down goofs and like things that refer to other movies. And Alien, to me, is a movie that is just incredible. Because it is this movie that in 1979 managed to get this like really claustrophobic feeling of like, oh my god, I'm in space and I'm gonna die really quickly. And it also took away this like space travel being this like to infinity and beyond and bring family values and the American way to space, and it actually showed that space travel in the future will just be a normal job, and we'll be just factory workers up there that get bad food and really just it's tedious. And it was the first time a science fiction movie did this. So when I heard that Prometheus is going to come out, I was like, oh dear Lord. Because prequels, except for Star Trek, are just awful from the very beginning. So normally they have forgotten what the movie is about. And then I saw the rumors coming, and I saw Ridley Scott is going to direct it again. I'm like, yes, it's not going to be Cameron, so it's not going to be like really annoying, like Pocahontas meets the Smurfs or something like that. And I saw the actors, and it has like English actors in there, guys from my neighborhood, because I live in London. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to be good. And then Prometheus came out, and it was this awfully bad film. It was just a CGI explosion, and the story had so many holes you can dry pasta with it. It was just unbelievably bad, because it's a beautiful film. The cinematography is wonderful, the CGI is wonderful, but the story is just terrible. It's like so many subplots that don't make any sense. The main actress is actually forced to do like forced exposition, like, oh, I can't give life, what does that make me? Oh, you might get pregnant with an alien, right? And then some claw machine gets it out of you or something, and you get hurt and you can't stand up anymore, but you can run and jump on spacecraft and these kind of things. And you got the android guy who basically touches everything he's told not to touch. Seems he runs Honeycomb or something. It's just really weird that this guy has this evil subplot, and he's an android. He's there to actually repair things and stuff. He's not thinking about himself. And my favorite was the guy that had these drones, you know, the ones that they stole from Incredibles, that actually mapped the whole thing. And he's got GPS, and they're always in contact with the spaceship, and then they lose their way. How? And it was just a massive disappointment. And I gave it the most brutal treatment I could give a movie, which is actually canceling my pre-order for the DVD Blue set and not downloading it via BitTorrent. So I just said, this is dead to me, this didn't work out. And it's such a shame, because I was so happy about it. I wanted to see it. And James just talked about this, and the same happens. What does it have to do with anything? The same happens right now with HTML5. The hype cycle has been in tech publishing and in publishing in general, a thing that has been done for years. And we have this peak of inflated expectations, something new comes out, like, hey, flying cars, jetpacks, these kind of things. And then we have to throw a disillusionment, a slope of enlightenment, and a plateau of productivity. And we're right now going from that peak down really, really quickly. Not us, we're really excited about it, but the tech press. And the analysts out there, the business analysts. Everybody is right now out to see HTML5 fail. And it annoys the hell out of me, but it's just interesting to see that how quickly that happened. And I think it's us to blame. Us, the browser makers, us, the software makers, that actually gave people the false impression what HTML5 is about. So I get all these business reports that our press team sends to me and says like, oh, can we do something about this? That like, it's not ready for prime time. Yes, it will replace apps and it will be the near future. It talks about the hypertext, future hypertext, whatever that means. But it's just business analysts that want to sell things to other people, and it sells to be bad. HTML5, when it came out, was an absolutely necessary evolution. The W3C said XHTML is done, XHTML2 will be this really cool modular thing that is based on XML, because everybody loves namespaces, obviously. And the old stuff will not show anymore. If your HTML page has a single error in it, it will not display. And a lot of people said that's not right. We can't do this. We cannot undo the web. The web is there, and it's all over the place. It's in rural Africa on a 3G connection. It's here on a 4G connection. It's everywhere, and it empowers people worldwide. We cannot make the web break just because we want to do new things. So HTML5 said a few things that were incredibly good. One of them was not breaking the web. It has to be backwards compatible. All the cool new input fields go back to a text field if they're not supported. That's good, because we have to do it on the server side anyways. Consistent parsing of markup was another big thing. For the first time, all the browsers that said they are HTML5 compatible have to use the same parser. We know what browsers do with HTML. We don't hope that some browser does something different than the other, and they all did. Like when I started, I was like Netscape 3 and Internet Explorer 4, and your basic skill was knowing how all of those suck, not really how all of those do the things right. So with HTML5, we had the consistent parsing across all browsers. Multimedia access, out of a sudden the video was not this black box in the middle that you don't know what's going on. That was some random copied and pasted embedded object code with 10,000 SIDs and these kind of things in there. We knew what it was. It was just an element in the page. We can rotate it, we can interact with it, we can overlay things over a video, which we couldn't do before, instead of just using some iframes and things like that, so IE did it. And we had richer forms. We had color pickers, we had numbered fields, we had date pickers, we had all the things that applications needed that HTML never had. So these ideas were great for HTML5. This is why we did it. And then we started not evolution, but we started a mutation. We started putting things in that are shiny, that are beautiful. That are like, okay, let's do cool shiny stuff to get people excited about HTML5. And it's not the awesome mutation, it's not like the X-Men, but it's like this like weird mutation that you look at, you're like, do I go to hell for laughing at this, or what the hell is going on there? What is this? So one of these things is my favorite in the specs is what I call the Do I Look Fat in Distress API. Because when you ask a browser if it can play a certain video type, there's the can play type method. And that method has 3 return values. Either an empty string, or probably, or maybe. So this is either trolling on a very, very good level, or it's just, why is this thing in there? This is wasting my time. I don't want a coy API. I don't want to say like, does this work? Maybe. That's not an API. I can go to people and talk to them instead of just doing a call. It's like, especially something as a test API, not giving you data back that makes sense, it's just painful. And HTML5 is the new Flash, because we all knew Apple killed Flash, and we couldn't use it anymore. And we treated it the same way, and that was the painful thing. Instead of using HTML the way we intended it, let's make a web that's not broken. Let's make a web that is really good and that has new things and does new things. We actually started doing shiny stuff. So shiny demos is the thing that actually sold HTML5 to everybody out there. I mean, Opera are the only ones that are really like obvious enough. Their demo site is called shinydemos.com, which is actually pretty sweet. And we do these kind of things. We show really cool stuff. I mean, let's do that quickly. So We talked yesterday about WebRTC, is the cool new stuff that's coming out. So there's a little tool that's called Webcam Swiper, and it looks like this in terms of code. We got the interaction cam, that's the wrong one. Webcam Swiper, this is all it is, and it's basically a jQuery plugin that you can put into the page, and if you want to see what it does this. So I can actually now take my camera, I have this little book thing in here, and it resized my browser, so let's do this. And then I can use my hand to go back and forward in the book. This is cool, because for example, for a cooking app, like if I have my fingers full of blood because I'm bad at cooking, or if I have my fingers full of dirt because I'm good at cooking, I don't want to touch my computer, and I don't want to touch my tablet all the time. So this is really, really amazing when you show people that, and that's just a few lines of JavaScript, and that's pretty sweet. I'm for the Mozilla Festival, I built this little thing called the Interaction Cam, and that one will be together with a Makey, and I can talk about this for hours, but it's not the part of this one here. So this one now is just I press space, and as Evernote totally messed up Sketch, I thought I'd do something to take pictures with. So I just have this picture thing here right now, and then when I press space, it takes a picture. I can say, okay, I like this one. Actually, I don't, so let's try another one. So yay, hello. And upload this to the web, and it's uploading it to image URL, and I can actually check the link and upload it to image URL, all in JavaScript. No server included, all in the browser itself, because image URL uses CORS for uploading as well, and we got the, oh my god, look angry. And we got the interaction cam using WebRTC. So if you look at that source code, you actually have the interaction cam here. Here's my API key that you shouldn't use. I get some stuff from the DOM. I get my get media, where I test for all the different browsers which one is supported. I get the video stream. I put it into an image. I take a picture by copying it into a canvas. I can put all kind of cool stuff on there now as well. I can upload it then using CORS to the to image URL, because that they actually have this API. And that's all the code that was necessary. The rest is event handlers. And this is pretty sweet that we can do these things nowadays, and you get people excited with that. Another one is the Neve Cam, the webcam. That one, a lot of people show that one. So you can say, use my camera, please allow access, yes please. And this one uses WebGL to actually give you lots and lots of filters. So I can see myself here, and then I can left mirror, right mirror, top mirror. So you can play with that for hours, and I normally do. And there's like about 50, 60 different things going on there. There's one called LSD, which is quite interesting. But even simpler things, like the other day my girlfriend is doing a training course for people with JavaScript, so we thought instead of teaching JavaScript the normal way, we just write a little game. So we wrote this little game in like 40 lines of JavaScript that are simple to explain to people, and all of that uses CSS animations and transitions and all the things that really work simply nowadays. Now, all of this is really, really interesting in terms for us to see. It sounds exciting, but it isn't. Because if you talk to Flash people that have been doing Flash, they've been using camera interaction 7 years ago. And they look at us like now, like, oh wait, you can access a camera, awesome. And you only have to write it like 7 different times for different browsers because the implementations are different from one to another. Amazing. So what we actually do is we do the same things we did with Flash that we actually did wrong with Flash. We do in HTML5 now to get ourselves excited and not the market out there, because people just want to implement that. Because you show that to a market analyst and he's like, well, I've got this Windows 7 machine here, and with Windows 8, with Internet Explorer 8 is my browser. What do I do with that? You look at the video on YouTube and see how it looks like in other browsers, but that's about it. So we have to think about more about not doing the same mistakes we've done with Flash of just randomly innovating and finding out things to excite ourselves with, rather than like doing things that make sense. We failed to impress with this, and this was interesting at the Adobe event in London, where somebody showed a lot of HTML5 demos and every single one of them failed. Much like Peter Lubbers yesterday here. Like every single demo had like, oh, I reload this again, and like, oh, wait, it's almost there, like don't worry about it, it will work, it's awesome by the way, and hope it works out. And we laugh about this, you're like, demo stuff on the screen doesn't work. But actually, it bothers people that there is a lack of robustness. And I agree. It's like if we show things that break on stage, that's not advertising, that's just scary. And we just like, yeah, well, outside the world, don't people care? And it's just a very, very interesting thing how people who, he's for example, is a Flash developer. He's been doing that for years and he's like, I can't sell this. I can't use that technology if I can't trust it. And it's not impressive that way. And my favorite is the at the other event that she showed that OK Go music video that Google released back then that showed that 2012 technology is pop-up windows that actually can be arranged. And that never worked on my Chromebook, which was very interesting, and never worked on Firefox because the videos were sent as application octet stream rather than videos on the server. So a lot of these little paper cuts that kill us when these things don't work. You shouldn't show things that don't work. So instead, I think we should be thinking about not what we can add, but what we can't take away. Not like, oh, 3D animation with video cube on each side and you can spin it with your hand and these kind of things. Like, that's great, but that's in the movies. That is Iron Man. You're not Iron Man, sorry. Same with like the interaction of things. My favorite is Minority Report, when it's like, let's do this all day long. Your arms will fall off. Although it's actually Tom Cruise, so it's on this height, but it's okay. I think it's about, we start thinking about what can't we take away? What is a good app? And that doesn't matter if it's a web app or a native app, what should they do? The app we got here on the website, like, oh, look at the agenda. If you're offline, the thing breaks and it loads the agenda every single time I open my phone. That's not an app. That's a website. I might as well just go to the website and read it. So web distribution to me, a URL is a very, very important thing for an app. An app should be available with a URL because then I can access it worldwide, independent of my ability, independent of my hardware. A very small footprint. The first load should be incredibly small. Then it can load more data, store it offline, and the next time I open it, I got all my data there. But the websites that I see in HTML5 that claim to be apps that actually are these like massive scrolling parallax things, if your website is 15 meg, it's not HTML5, it's stupid. It might be beautiful, but Flash will kill you because Flash can load this stuff really in a streaming manner that HTML5 cannot yet. So don't repeat these kind of mistakes. Adaptation to environment. No, I don't want to have a retina display to look at your website. I just want to see what it does on my computer. A good website looks different on every different computer according to what that computer can do. If you want your website or your web product to look the same on every device, release JPEGs. That's the only way you have. Otherwise, there will always be differences between the ones. Offline storage, incredibly important. Broken at the moment, sadly enough. But it's actually the thing that will kill us if we don't have it, because you will be offline all the time. I travel all the time. I'm on planes, I'm on airports, I'm in the Silicon Valley where the Google Wi-Fi doesn't do anything except for just showing up on my phone. And these things will happen. It should be the best mean to achieve a goal. We build far too many things right now to put effects in. Like, oh, everybody wants to have something like, I don't know, like some effects on a camera might be a good idea because some company might buy you for billions of dollars. But that has been done. And it's not the effect. It's like, what do people want to do with this that's important? Atomic updates. A web app can get a new level as a JSON object in 3K and not like, oh, you want to download these 23 megs of Angry Birds because we put new banner ads in, right? No, I don't. So atomic updates are incredibly important, and Android has that now, but it's not quite there yet. The web already has it. The web always had it, and we should do this in every app. And simple maintenance and localization. HTML can be really easily edited and localized as well with strings coming from somewhere else. A bundled app that is one big thing, not so easy. So this is an image that goes around a lot, and it was another presentation. How to tell HTML from HTML5. Tried in Internet Explorer. Did it work? No, it's HTML5. I find it sad. I find it really sad, because not that that Internet Explorer doesn't do good things, they're doing at the moment. But if HTML5 really means that you need to use one single browser, we're doing it wrong. We cannot complain that Flash needs a plugin to be downloaded when we ask people to have a certain browser to be downloaded. That's the same mistake. It should do something in Internet Explorer. It shouldn't do Internet Explorer, old Internet Explorer. It shouldn't do the same thing. It should do something that makes sense. If that's a reloading page with a form that actually gives you the data every single time, fine. They worked since 1996. I've been saying that the love we give Internet Explorer 6 is bordering on necrophilia at times. And we should not do this. We should not pester Internet Explorer with new technology. If you make a CSS 3D animation with like rotation and stuff, and then use jQuery to make the same thing work in IE6, you're doing it wrong. This computer is old. This browser is old. It's supposed to be a pensioner. It's supposed to be sitting on the beach and feeding pigeons, not try to run marathons like you do with a CSS 3D animation. And there is no one browser. Stop pretending that this would be the case. Oh, we only support WebKit, because WebKit is Safari, Chrome, and this and that. No, they're all a different WebKit. And they're all a different setup WebKit. They have all other things on top. There is no one browser to rule them all. People will not download one browser and be the one in the future. That's like, I mean, unless you go and send everybody a laptop, okay, do that, please, but it's not going to happen. We have far too much hardware, far too much browsers out there that are in use that will not be upgraded. And connectivity will always be an issue. There will always be something that clogs the pipes that we cannot connect things to. And it doesn't matter how fast your connection is. When your neighbor starts downloading the last 20 episodes of whatever TV show they're just doing, then all of a sudden your connection is not as fast. And connectivity is never reliable. Like, at least in desktop world, we knew there was a reliable connectivity. It was slow, but it was reliable. With a phone, you're like, okay, now I'm outside of range. I'm in range again. I'm outside of range. The spinner is the most important thing that I see on my mobile phone. And I'm saddened that in 2012, that's still the case. So connectivity is really an issue, especially when people get me all about like, oh, Regina, download a 3 megabyte picture because it's beautiful on this desktop and the newest iPad. And our 3G infrastructure, our mobile masts, are not made to send that much data around. So stop thinking that this future will come. It will not. The infrastructure is physical, and it's hard to actually upgrade. You live in America where everything is copper cable. At least I've got fiber optics for 5 years now. My girlfriend's place in Sweden has a 100 megabit line for free with the house. And it's just, that kind of stuff is pretty cool. But here you go to Arkansas or someplace in the sticks, and you will see how good your Retina displays are. Now, of course, we then like, okay, whatever, desktop. It's all about mobile nowadays. Like, nobody uses desktops anymore. Like, every month there's a new picture. Like, oh yeah, everybody's on mobile phones. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that. Especially on trains and stuff. I see that a lot. And the problem with mobile is that it's even worse for us as developers, because mobile is all about hardware. The hardware providers of mobile, the chipset providers, the phone providers are the ones that call the shots. Whoa, we got Chrome on Android now. Awesome, but it's not mandatory. Every hardware provider can still say, oh, we only want to use the stock option Android browser, which is the new Internet Explorer 6 because it's awful and it needs to be replaced. So I was jokingly saying we need Chrome Frame for Android, but they didn't do that yet. But we have the hardware problem, and for hardware providers, for certain hardware providers, there's just no incentive to actually support the web. Why would I support the web when most of my money is made by selling apps that are in my own infrastructure and in my native environment, where I can even ask developers for $100 to actually build apps for me? Why would I make the web view as good as the native view just because I don't want to make money anymore? That's not going to happen anytime soon. So to me, the mobile OS is the clamp that actually brings the browser engine down to a stop. We can optimize our JavaScript, our CSS rendering, any way we want to. If it's in a web view and we don't have control over the performance, we have a problem. And that's the big issue about mobile web. A quick story again. We're trying too hard. I think it's rather pointless to ask you if any of you knows what that is, because none of us has been born back then. That is a submarine K-boat from 1913. They were built from 1913 to 1927 in England. And the idea of those boats was that they could be submarines that are fast enough to go with normal ships. So they could be part of the armada and then dive down, go sink other things, come back, rejoice, and everything is fine. The problem is that a submarine, as water underwater is a lot harder to get through than over water, are actually slower, much slower than normal ships. So to make these things as fast as the other ships, and there's like comparisons with like 13 miles per hour, 27, much like we do with frames per second right now, they had to have a massive engine in there, and they had to be huge to actually host these engines, because back then it was all like steam stuff. There was no, we didn't find atomic stuff yet. So these ships were 105 meters long, and the depth that they could go to was 60 meters. You see the problem with this? If you go down like in a 10-degree angle, the back would still be out of the water by the time it's going to the place where it would break apart. So the other problem was that at that time, the navigation systems weren't good enough. They basically, while they were diving, they were blind more or less. So none of these ships ever made it more than a few miles out of England because they crashed into the ground as soon as they started sinking, which is quite ironic because they shouldn't sink completely. They just tried to submerge rather than sink. They crashed into each other. They were 350,000 pounds a piece, and all of them were breaking apart, and a lot of people got killed because they tried to make these ships the way a surface ship was and being a submarine at the same time. And I think what we can learn from that is like a web app can never be like a native app. We're comparing two things that are not comparable. We're playing in a playing field where we are blocked. We don't have control over the hardware. We don't have control over the performance. So instead of thinking about making native web apps that look like native apps and almost are like native apps, let's make web apps that are better than native apps and do the things that native apps can't do. Let's not try to simulate other apps because we just are happy to do that. Let's do something better. And this is what the K-boat was its biggest mistake. It didn't try to be a faster submarine. It tried to be a normal ship that can sink. And sadly enough, it sank far too well. So how do we get from that throw of disillusionment back to the enlightenment? What do we do about this? Well, first of all, I think we need a packaged format. That's just an aside, but like an HTML app that is lots and lots of files somewhere that get loaded and maybe get loaded into app cache or not, is not the right format. We need a packaged format that can be actually sent from market to market and reused everywhere. You see with HTML slides, I have to upload them to my server. I have to upload like thousands of files before I can see my HTML slides again on the web. It would be good to have one packaged format to do that. We need to free the hardware. We need to free ourselves from the shackles of hardware providers that tell us like, you need to go native to access that accelerometer. Camera access? No, native, not for you. This is arewemobileyet.com, where Mozilla is tracking its status of our web APIs. The web APIs basically are drivers and APIs that access the hardware. So you got WebGL on phones, you got geolocation, the battery API, the web vibration API, which used to be called vibrator API, but there are too many stupid jokes about this. Settings, full screen API, multi-touch, all the things that are green are there, all the things that are red are still being fixed. So help us fixing them. It's all open source, it's all on GitHub, yeah. There's Bugzilla out there. So all this data in this page comes from Bugzilla directly. So the thing would go green if we fixed it. So we're on the case to make hardware accessible through JavaScript, because it is absolutely necessary. You can't make a mobile app without accessing half of the hardware. That's not a mobile app, that's just a website in a mobile. We call this Firefox OS. Actually, the system is called Gecko. The OS itself is called Firefox OS. And what we're doing with this, we're going to markets that cannot afford a smartphone, like an iPhone or an Android or upper-level Android. And together with a few partners, we build phones that are really affordable for that market, so people can be on the web with their phones and not send text messages around. And Brazil is the first market where we do that. And the cool thing about Firefox OS is that the whole OS, everything except for the hardware drivers, of course, and the Linux core that talks to the hardware, is HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS. The operating system itself is written in these technologies. There's nothing else you need to learn. You can build these things yourself. And we've got an emulator now in the browser called R2D2B2G, yeah, because developers have a fun kind of thing. And I can open this B2G desktop here, and you can see the operating system in action. So this is what the operating system looks like. Right for now, it's just an approximation. You can do whatever you want with it. These are the apps. These are all the settings. I can make phone calls with it. I can send text messages with it. Something I could never do with JavaScript beforehand. All of this is now possible in JavaScript. So I can now do like these calls and kind of things. And when I look at the code, everything, including actually the sounds, is done in JavaScript. So let me find that one. Hang on, Gaia. There we go. So this is the main document of the operating system. It's like lots and lots of scripts, some bit of HTML, some CSS. Everything is done in HTML. The sounds you just heard are defined in JavaScript. So you can change that yourself as well. So for the first time, you could build the interface of your operating system in web technologies as well, of your mobile phone. We're not planning to do that yet, but me as I've been an accessibility fan for a long time, a phone with 3 buttons like call home, order pizza, call a doctor is possible now just by writing an HTML page, not by flashing your own phone, getting your own Android built, or asking Apple to do it, which is not going to happen. So what I found amazing about this is that half a year ago, this was an empty repository on GitHub. And now we have actually the emulator. We have the opportunity for you to write HTML5 apps for that, because the next thing that is in this R2D2B2G thing, Jesus Christ, is you can install a page as an app. So for example, you could go to Wikipedia here, install the page as an app, and then it runs as an app on the phone. And this is what we're doing to free the hardware. This is what we're doing to make HTML5 a real operating system for the mobile phones. And this is what a prototype of the phone looks like right now. So I'm not bullshitting you with an emulator. These things exist. And we're working on getting some of them out for developers. But come by our office here or the one in Mountain View and have a look at those, and you can play with those phones. They work. I can do telephone calls with them. I can send text messages with them. I can play games on them to a degree. But they work. And I think it's very important that we think about out of the box that way, rather than just thinking, how do we force things into the systems that are out there? The next big thing is a knowledge merger that has to happen. That's Christy from Adobe, and that was during a talk at the Adobe Roadshow. Adobe are just releasing a lot of tools that allow Flash developers to build HTML5, and that is incredibly important. Those guys know stuff. They've been writing games in browsers through Flash for the last 10 years. A lot of the cool demos that we've seen is like reverse engineered of what some Flash guy had done 6 years ago. We have that knowledge. We just have developers that don't want to touch HTML5 yet. And I think the important thing here is that Adobe does a good job telling them about it. Conversion is another way in. This is banana bread. It looks like crap because I downloaded on in the hotel wireless yesterday night. That's the video. It's high quality in reality. This is a 3D game that is running in the browser. So this is running inside Firefox right now. This hasn't been written in HTML5. It has been written in C++. It's a C++ game that people just converted with something called mscripten to HTML5 and JavaScript. So instead of asking a lot of developers that for 20 years have been doing good money writing C++ games, so like, hey, you got to learn this HTML thing, which is not quite ready yet, but sucks to be you. You want to make money with us, you got to do that. So instead of having to learn a new technology, they can use what they do right now and just convert it to HTML5 and JavaScript, because the technology is there and the browser engines are fast enough. So that's a very important step, I think, and it's something that Google does as well with its native client, which is a bit of a different story because it only works, again, on Chrome. But this one works in all HTML5 browsers right now, just converting from C++. And I think it's very important that we don't interrupt people's work, but we just convert them into HTML5 believers. Adobe has this tool set coming out, like there's this Edge Reflow, which is really cool, which is like a responsive design view thing that you can just drag from Photoshop into it and make your cutoff points and make a layout that is responsive. And yes, no, we're not going to change every designer out there to start writing in HTML and start designing in HTML. They want to use their Photoshop, and they can use their Photoshop. What we should do is support Adobe in creating tools that actually spit out things that are not random HTML, but good HTML. And that's what I want to do, although I'm not on the Santa Cruz the next few days. But I will be back. And they have PhoneGap, of course, Edge Inspect, all these really cool things. And I think if any company can do that, it's Adobe. Because as much as we hate Flash, as much as we hate Photoshop, they sold millions and people use it every single day. There's no way we can actually start saying, oh, we write better tools than Adobe and we'll be as successful. No, they already have their subscription plans and these kind of things going on. So how do we get ourselves, how can we do something? I think we have to shift our approach. So the comfort zone the magic happens outside of our comfort zone, and we have to change a bit ourselves. So one thing as developers I always want to do is start something new and write it myself because I don't understand other people's code. Like every JSConf we got about 20 new libraries coming out because last year the libraries weren't good enough, and that's not helping anybody. Create.js is a tool set that allows you to actually do easel.js, which is canvas painting, tween.js for animation, sound.js to make sound work in HTML5, preload.js to preload stuff, and Zoe, which allows you to build sprite sheets from imagery to be reused from Flash games, for example. This is open source. This is free on GitHub. You can download that now and use it. Microsoft has built their Atari arcade with that, and you can see it works. And Microsoft, I have to say, is the only company right now that makes Shiny demos that work across all the browsers. A lot of other Shiny demos say, like, this is a so-and-so experiment and only works in that browser. That's not the web. But Microsoft are doing a good job that way. And the Atari arcade was really beautiful. So Create.js, if you want to build a game, look at it, use it, don't reinvent it. Because you're not as good as those guys, because he's a Flash dude, and he learned it for 15 years, and he did some really, really good work there. Stop abstracting. And this is a bit controversial. People are getting incredibly excited about Sass and Less and jQuery. And that's good, because, it makes us much more effective. It makes us so effective that we shouldn't do any work anymore. We should be all on the beach because we released 20 things in 1 week. But no, we wrote another jQuery plugin instead. So it's really hard to hire a JavaScript developer. I guess all of you can attest to that, the people who are hiring, because half the people that come in say like they know JavaScript and they only know jQuery. Because for them it's the same thing. It's not. It's an abstraction layer. It's a different syntax. If you don't even know what the thing does, then you're not a developer. You're just an application person that builds something and hopes everything works. And we do the same with Less and Sass. Yes, CSS doesn't have the stuff we want to, but we need to make CSS working group. We need to force them to do it and to make it a standard rather than like make our own meta syntax that is interesting unless we're bored and we don't do it anymore. So I don't want to have a product in 5 years' time where I have to look at it and find like 6 different preprocessors that are not in use anymore and I don't know how to get around them. With a standard I could still say, okay, I know I understand this, I can do this. So it's good to get excited about abstracting problems away, but we're lying to ourselves if we keep abstracting away from the main problem that CSS itself is not good enough yet. And yes, it is a long process to get things through the W3C, but if you want to have a job in the future that gives you code that is predictable, that's the only way of doing it. I think I've always done that, and I think we should do it as well, is think of escalators. If you build anything on the web, think of an escalator. An escalator is an awesome thing. This is in London at Angel Station. It's like 90 meters up. An escalator cannot break. And a broken down escalator is a set of stairs. You can still walk up. It's not as convenient, but you're not blocked out. A broken down lift is a little small room that's very uncomfortable and doesn't make any sense. That's why every place with lifts also had to build staircases to make sure that in case there's a fire and stuff, then you do that. I always use staircases in hotels here. And it cracks me up because you always end up in the kitchen or some laundry or something, because nobody expects a staircase to come out at the lounge, because it's like everybody takes the lift, right? So progressive enhanced products work the same way. Something that works is there for everybody. It gets more convenient, more beautiful, more engaging for technology that supports it. Not for everybody, just almost experience, and an experience that like, sorry, sucks to be you have to upgrade your browser. No, I can't. I'm on a connection that doesn't allow me. I'm in a company that doesn't allow me to install another piece of software. So build your software, your web apps, your websites as escalators instead of building them as lifts that actually have rocket packs on the side and are beautiful. It works. They've been working for a long, long time, and it's cool to see them, and people use them daily. Some people use them stupidly. They stand at the end and look around, but that's just tourists. So think about that when you do it. And we should make it that simple. We always get very excited about our products and like, oh, lots of little tools and lots of little things, and you got to do this step and that step. Like, this is the future of web development. Just install Node.js, Ruby, Redis, then install your browser that way, set it up that way. You already lost the guy. You already lost the person that wants to do that. So we should be that simple. You probably heard this morning, Yeoman is a good idea. It's packaging the whole thing up to make it much easier. You just say, install this for me. Okay, I don't want to know where it comes from. Not sure if I trust it yet, and I'm not sure how much more, how much products we will have in the future that have far too many things in that we don't need. But it's great that Adi and Google actually have put these things together. Another product is called Harp, and they're actually sponsored by Web Forward, which is our incubator for web open entrepreneurship. And this one uses Dropbox to actually publish things on the web. And this is pretty cool. You know, instead of having to create my manifest file by hand and submit it to different places, it's actually, I just put it in a Dropbox and the rest is generated for me. I just have to concentrate on writing the JavaScript, the CSS, and the HTML. It's one guy from Joyent and one guy from PhoneGap that are doing it at the moment, so there's lots of good stuff coming that way. And Dropbox in general is a really cool publication tool. If you really don't just want to have something on the web, put a folder inside your public folder and you got a URL. You can even connect the domain to that if you wanted to. Same with GitHub Pages. Don't set up your own server and never update them again, because we just got enough zombies for botnets out there already. The browser has turned from something to just consume the web into something to create the web with. I mean, the developer tools in every browser out there are incredible by now. They're debugging tools in most of the cases, but they're also creation tools. I mean, you might not know that, but Firefox, for example, has this Scratchpad. And the Scratchpad is actually a little JavaScript editor that I can write massively long JavaScripts and test them against a live site right now, and then save them as a JavaScript file on my hard drive. So it's not just a console where I can try one command at a time. I can actually build a JavaScript in there, and when I highlight the different lines, it only executes those lines at the time. You have, of course, the debugging tools. You have a Scratchpad. You have a web console now where the whole browser can be keyboard controlled, which is pretty cool for somebody like me who actually doesn't like mice and stuff like that. And of course, we got silly things as well, like the 3D view. Like when you go, for example, you go to Facebook. Let's try that out. And I say, okay, inspect the element. That could be embarrassing. We've got a 3D view of the page. And that one shows you the depth of the DOM. And that's sometimes a good idea to test out, is my website too complex or not? And that just started as a little game thing that we had, and it was a Google Summer of Code project. And then we realized, actually, this makes sense, and it actually is an interesting way to show people, look what you're putting on the wire every time you actually load your page. So that was not good, because now I'm going to go back to that. Wonderful. Let's clean that. Yeah. Okay, let's do that with the side there, fair enough. Hooray, stop that. Sorry about that. Okay, view, toolbars. What did I say about demos earlier? Let's see that my demos work in all browsers. Sorted. Good, developer tools in all the browsers. Of course it doesn't work in Chrome. What? We're almost there. Okay, good. So browser consumption and creation. These tools are input and output. And I think it's very important to get people excited about this. We have this webmaker project where we talk to journalists and we talk to people who don't know about the web to build their first websites. And we do all of that in the browser rather than like, oh, download this editor and do some other stuff. It actually is already out there. Collaboration on the web is a very important thing. I talked about Dropbox. There's Cloud9 IDE, which is a full IDE in the browser, in the cloud, connecting with GitHub. So you actually you have your code online. JSBin for testing things out, JSFiddle as well, CodePen, Dablet, Tinker.io. All of these things are incredible. In the past, I had to go to a mailing list and I had to say, oh, this is broken, look at my server, what's going on there. And nowadays, I just add a JSBin and people collaborate and edit the thing for me and fix the thing for me. And I get my answer in 10 minutes rather than in an hour and people complaining that my server is slow. Collaboration over the web is a very, very important thing. In Mozilla, we all do everything over Etherpad. So my team is like 5 people in 5 time zones. So it's actually not really that easy to actually meet. But we just fill in our agenda in an Etherpad beforehand, send that to each other as a URL, and edit it live during the meetings as well. And our meetings are like this long and not that long, where somebody has to be pointed out to take notes and things like that. It's a matter of rethinking tooling. If you have got an hour of time, look at this talk by Brett Victor called Inventing on Principle. He actually built these tools that shows you how to build a game. And you see the jump here. And he's actually tweaking the jump to say what is the condition to actually meet that end of level thing by changing the sprite on the left-hand side and the code changes on the right-hand side. So instead of tweaking the code and having to type in numbers all the time, you make the output the input. Because his whole principle is like to connect creation and consumption as close to each other as possible, rather than like having an extra time, an extra step in between where you have to save, load it in the browser, look at it, find what's going on. And that way you can build things while you're playing them. And that's a very, very new idea, but a very, very good idea. And that is already happening. And again, I have to pimp Adobe here. Because Adobe Brackets is not only the first time that Adobe does open source and does it really, really well, but it's actually an editor that eats its own dog food and does really interesting things. So when I look at this one, and this is actually the presentation that I have here right now that I have open, so the broken promise of HTML5, this one here. It doesn't look much, but it has some really cool features. It actually, for example, I can connect it to a browser to see the thing live. So when I do changes, it changes in the browser live without having to go to the browser and do a reload and see the changes. But what I really, really like, and maybe make it a bit bigger to see that, is when I have anything here on the page, like something with a class called slide. In other editors, I now go to my CSS and try to find the slide class and see which applies where and what's going on. In DevTools, I can actually go into the browser, right-click it, and I see all the styles that have been applied. So what Adobe did is put the editor inside. So I can now press Command and E here, and that gives me the CSS applied inside the other document. So I have got the HTML document still open, but I have the CSS files that apply to this element open in a small inside editor. So I can actually now go through all of the elements, all of the CSS files and all the lines in the CSS files that apply to that. So I don't have to jump between documents anymore. I just edit everything in one editor. And that's something that I haven't seen any other editor do, and that's a really, really cool little thing that they thought of. So this immediacy of output and input is already happening, and it's happening in an open source text editor by Adobe, and who would have thought that a year ago? Another thing that is absolutely necessary is prototyping extended HTML. HTML5 is great, but what we did with the forms, for example, sucks. Like they're not quite there yet. The color picker doesn't work. The date picker is weird in like Safari, and some other browsers don't do it at all. So what we have is a new proposal called Web Components. Web Components allows you to build richer controls inside the browser based on the browser itself. It's a bit hard to understand, But if you think, for example, you put a video element in the page, all of a sudden you've got all these controls. Where do they come from? What are they doing? They're actually part of the browser, and they're called the shadow DOM. So you can actually edit these in Chrome, Canary, and also in the native Firefox, I think. And you can see the HTML that the browser generated under the hood to have these elements. So what web components do is actually open this up to end users. So you can actually build, well, developers, you can actually build your own components natively in the browser that way. And the web components proposal is only working on Chrome, which is annoying. That's why we did Xtag. And Xtag is actually on Mozilla. It's a JavaScript library that you put into the page, and it makes the web components, that's great. It makes the web components available for all the browsers, for IE9 onwards. And that way we can actually build things like this from markup like that. So instead of having to have another JavaScript, another jQuery plugin and jQuery UI plugin to make these kind of things, we have them natively in the browser, and their performance is much, much better. The same way we have a web game stub and Mortar, which are just GitHub repositories to build your first HTML5 games that does all the things that you don't need to know about. It's a very, very important step towards a web that's much, much richer, because browsers and the HTML5 specifications have not delivered on forms that we want to have. So the time is now and the place is here. There's a beautiful book called The Lost Thing by Sean Tan, and it has this thing in there called Today is the Tomorrow You Expected Yesterday. We're always like, oh, but do it tomorrow, the future is awesome. The future is now. Do it today or don't do it. We can't wait anymore. It's like you cannot lose. If you do it wrong, somebody tells you, you fix it together. It's totally fine. But we have to start not thinking about the future. We have to start doing it right now. And another important thing is, I think, catching them young. We do a lot of stuff with teaching children about the web and about the open web. And there's lots of cool stuff going on. Mozilla Thimble is this little tool that allows you to actually build your first web pages. And it's a what you see is what you get editor. So you can say, pick a project, make your own animal, make the project. That's together with the London Zoo, actually. And when you make the project, you're in an editor, and there's an HTML page on the side that explains to you what to do. So how can I build my own animal? It has comments in there explaining to you what to do, and it shows the changes immediately on the other side. So if I do, for example, the small thing here, if I delete this, then it shows the code live right now. Or it doesn't. Yeah, there we go. Animals. If I make an HTML error, it actually highlights the page in red, and it explains to me in plain English what the error is. So that way we teach people by fixing things and tinkering with other things rather than like starting from scratch. Udacity does the same with videos. Codecademy is a great what you see is what you get way of learning code. Change Edu is an umbrella organization to make changes in education. And Khan Academy, of course, has changed a lot when it comes to education. I really think that children need to be taught how to think, not what to think, and that's what we did for far too long right now. So that's all I have, so thank you very much.